So someone asked me a question about neutral colors and bright colors, saturated colors, and my recent lemon painting that I did where I redid it, where I reworked an old painting. And they noticed that the background wasn't very bright and it was very dark, subtle tones. And they've also commented before that a lot of my paintings use very subtle, not very bright tones. I mean, even some of these behind me, like the couch painting here, is not a very bright tone. I mean, some of these other ones are, like the apples and the lemons and stuff. I do use bright tones. But the whole thing about it is that if I used bright colors the whole time for an entire painting, if you use bright saturated tones the entire time, well then there's no balance. There's no realistic quality to it, because when you look outside, nature may seem, or even anything in life, when you look around this room, anything you see may seem very saturated, may seem very bright, but it's really not. It's not really bright. The blue of this shirt, it looks really blue, doesn't it? Like so blue. I mean, it could be, but some areas of it, here maybe, there's darker, more neutral tones. Probably the only saturated part could be, right here where it's the brightest. So you can't have the dark without the light. You know what I mean? That's in life. There's balance. There's the sun, the moon. There's day, night. There's black, white. There's always a balance. Tall, short, skinny, fat. In everything, almost everything. Sharp, dull. I mean, I could go on and on. There's neutral, saturated, and really there isn't really anything. One thing Richard Schmid said in his book is that there's no such thing as neutral tones, which technically no, there isn't. But I guess you could say there's no such thing as saturated colors either, because there's nothing but different colors. That's all there is. A darker, less saturated red is a completely different red than a saturated red straight out of the tube. Of course, it's a different color. So when you think about all this, I mean, when I use bright tones very sparingly, and what that does is that it attracts the eye to those bright tones, because if you use them all the time, you're shouting everything. The whole painting is shouting. I don't want that. I want subtlety. I want it to look realistic, but also expressive, like this couch. This couch one is not super realistic. Let me see if I can zoom in on that. It's not super realistic because of the colors, but it's an expressive work. It's interesting, and that's what I'm trying to capture. And by using neutralized tones and really having it subdued, and I think there's a lot of strength in subduing your colors and reserving them, and not shouting everything. It's like typing in all caps. Everybody knows that. When someone types in all caps, it's annoying. It's someone's yelling. And most of the time those people on the internet are going, I'm not yelling, I left the caps lock on. It's a joke. But that's what it's like if you paint with all bright colors through your entire painting, throughout the entire thing. You're shouting your message. You're shouting. You can shout. It's better to shout your message in other ways, more subtle ways, and really catch the eye in one part. Like the lemons really jump out because of the neutral, less saturated, less bright purple that I have underneath it, and the less bright background. So try to think about that, is that if I had a really bright purple underneath the lemons, here, let me grab this lemon painting if I can, in case for those who haven't seen it. So when you look at this, if I used a bright purple underneath that bright yellow, Now the yellow is pretty saturated. It's a little knocked down with some white. The white kind of cools it down a little bit. But, you know, the purple in there is very, it's just neutral. It's a grayish tone. The background's a grayish green, yellow, reds, all kinds of little things going on in there. So if I would have made everything so bright, the lemons wouldn't pop out. The lemons wouldn't show up. You know what I mean? Does that make sense to everybody? I've talked about this before. It's a balance of neutrals and saturated tones. And sometimes you don't even want to use that many saturated tones at all. Just a few strokes here and there. Because everything in nature, when you really study outside, and really study like grass and all that stuff, maybe in like a sunset and an orange sunset, and the grass is really lit up, like maybe in that light something could be very saturated and nice, but in the shadows it's going to be cooled down, it's going to be neutral, subtle. So that's how you have to paint. It looks like a realistic image, doesn't it? So I mean, I must be doing something right. So that's what it's all about. It's just figuring out, you know, that walking that balance, and maybe, yeah, you can be a little more expressive if you want, and more creative, and more all this kinds of stuff, throwing in bright tones and bright colors. I've done that plenty of times. It's fun to do that, but lately I've just been focusing on realistically rendering things and just being able to achieve that. I want to up my level, and then I can add, it's so hard to explain. It's basically, you have to learn the rules before you can break them. So once you learn the rules, abide by them, figure out how things work, how should I paint this couch? How does it work? So this whole year of 2014, I've been painting from life. I've been learning, I've been studying, I've been all these things. It's not easy, it's definitely tough, but it's getting easier for me. At least some aspects, and then some aspects are getting harder because I've been learning more. The more you learn, the harder it gets almost. So that's what it's about. I'm painting from life, I'm learning, and then once I have that down, however many years it takes or how many months it takes, when I feel like I'm to that level, then I can start playing around, adding bright colors if I wish, or keeping it subdued. It's all a personal thing. So that's my take on the bright colors issue. Hope that answered your question. If you have any further questions on that, post them down below. I'll make another video. And I'm just going to keep answering people's questions here, because I'm an open book here. So if you got a question, ask it, I'll answer it. And anyway, thanks for watching. Take care of yourself. Peace, my friends.